All right. We should be good. How's your Wi-Fi?
My Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi looks good. I've got all bars, and it's hats off here to Flying J. You're at these truck stops, you just never know what you're going to get, but they've got some premium Wi-Fi, so that's good.
Nice.
And I'm actually sitting out in the parking lot next to the building, so I got some juice.
Good. Well, I have some questions about white knighterly and
Why would you
how
ask
to.
me about that?
Well, as a former white knight yourself, maybe you can give me some.
I'm a recovering white knighter.
A recovering white knight, yeah. I figured you could give me some deeper insight on how to reach these people.
Wow.
I mean, with you, I feel like it was super easy and it was quick, and you woke up and.
I think, honestly, Amanda,
Yeah.
I think the reality is, I think most people are so stuck in their beliefs that that have been ingrained in them for years. And it takes some kind of trauma or some kind of pain for them to humble themselves a little bit. And I don't mean humble like you're a doormat. I mean humble in the sense that you're open to new information. And until you experience some kind of trauma or pain, and that could be a breakup or a divorce or a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job. It's different for everybody. We all experience different levels of pain, and we all feel it differently. But I think it's only until you get to that point where you're open to receiving new information. Before you get to that point, we hold on to our beliefs, what we understand to be true, like a child sitting in a poopy diaper. It's warm, it's comfortable, and it's there. They're familiar with it. And everybody around them can look at them and say, okay, first of all, that stinks and it's nasty. And they're like, yeah, but it's warm and it's mine and it's comfortable. And in this chaotic world that we live in, I think people are just trying to hold on to any semblance of something that's familiar and consistent in those beliefs. That's why they're so hard to change. And once you get the pain, then I think people are open to it. And that's why you see a lot of people, I think, that, enter the MGTOW space like I did, is you go through some traumatic experience that you never thought was going to happen, like a divorce. 21 years, 4 children, for a year, divorce is not an option. Divorce is not an option until all of a sudden one day it is. And then you're like, damn, if my belief about my relationship and my ex-wife was such, and obviously that was wrong. It was like I was standing on a trap door that I just fell through. Well, what other beliefs am I holding on to that are wrong? And so, I was divorced. She divorced me in end of 2013. So we met, was it last summer?
Yeah.
I think
last October.
Yeah. So that's what, almost 10 years.
I got to you 10 years post-trauma.
10 years post-trauma, but also 10 years of me really digging deep and asking myself, is this true? Why do I believe this? What is this coming from? And then you start getting introduced to more and more people in the space, whether it was, Kevin Samuels or, Hammerhand or, Undead Chronic or all these, these crazy guys in the internet and YouTube space that I've never heard of before until you introduced me to them.
Yeah.
And then it just it drips, and all of a sudden, oh, that makes sense. Oh, so that's what was going on. And who was the guy that we met at the conference in Orlando that talks about female narcissism? I can't remember his name.
Richard Gronin.
I mean, wow, he just opens up so many different pathways in your brain where you're like, oh my gosh, I live that. And it's just once you're open to new ideas and just being humble to the truth. That's a long-winded question answer to your question, but I just think it takes some trauma. Why change if everything's going well?
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, because this company that I'm working at, I'm working on creating alliances and getting rid of the crazy bitches. Finding out who exactly there are, the true believers of the tyrannical matriarchy, and then who are just kind of pandering to save their damn jobs. And it seems like more people are just pandering. They don't seem to be true believers. I mean, there are a few true believers, but those I don't know if I have any hope for.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right, and that's both for men and women. I mean, most
Right.
people are followers. That's why
Right.
leaders are so unique and impact so many other people. But I think women in particular are such social creatures that
Yeah.
they will kind of be a chameleon to just kind of form into the group, whatever that group think is.
Right.
And I think it's wise what you're doing if you can find out who those ringleaders are, if you will, and
Yeah.
just target them for destruction. And just for
Yeah.
the YouTube censors, we don't mean physical pain or destruction or death or dismemberment. We're talking about just kind of some emotional and verbal bitch slapping. It's like,
Yeah.
this is the way it is. But I
Yeah.
think you're wise in doing that. You go for the um, the leader. The sheep will follow. The sheep will scatter. One of the two.
Yeah. That's what I'm figuring out. So the white knights, they need to be traumatized in order to wake up properly. I don't feel like I want to be the one to traumatize them though. I
No,
feel like they've been traumatized by women enough.
well, and then again, this guy, what's his name? The narcissist guy,
Richard
Richard.
Granny. Yeah.
Okay, Richard. Okay, he talks a couple of. I've heard some of his shorts and material, but it's kind of like a process. And so, a relationship starts out great, and everything's lovey dovey, and everything's working well. She's respectful and kind, and he's doing whatever he's supposed to do. Doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, as time goes on, it's like the shift starts to happen. And then all of
Right.
a sudden, you wake up 5 years later and you look around and you're like, holy crap. And usually it's your friends that look at you and like, okay, you're not even the same person that you were. And
Right.
that was my experience because my ex-wife didn't want me to have friends that I had known since third grade. And all of a
Right.
sudden you get ostracized and isolated. And then it's a slow creep. It's like, you get out of shape and overweight a little bit every year. And next thing you know, 20 years later, you're 30 pounds overweight and you've got, heart issues. It just takes time. And I don't know. I mean, I think I don't want to say wasting your time by trying to traumatize these guys and wake them up. I think your time would be better spent finding guys that have already been stirred awake. And I think there's a crap ton of men every day that
Yeah.
have been traumatized or, got, bitch slapped. And it's like, whoa, what happened? And I think just to have someone like you or another guy that can kind of breathe some kindness and truth into them, you're going to spend your time is going to be much better spent doing that than trying to wake people up.
Yeah. Yeah, I found quite a few, and it's funny because, like, in this organization, it's almost the same thing that happens in the manosphere. It's like each department is almost warring with other departments. It's
Mm-hmm.
so damn weird. Like these guys want to see each other fail. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really damn weird. So I come in and I talk to all of them, and I like all of them, and they all talk shit about each other, and I'm like, wow, this seems fucking familiar. And I'm like they don't get how much they have in common when it comes to just work stuff. Like it's weird.
Yeah, there's a lot wrapped up into what you just said about competition. Men and women, we're both competitive and we want to win. And
Yeah.
there's good ways of competing and bad ways, but it's I also think we're being manipulated too
Yep.
by the system, and whatever you want to call that, the deep state or the feminists or whatever, just culture in general. They
Yeah.
are trying to intentionally pit us against each other
Yep.
because when we're fighting each other, we're
Right.
much more easy to be controlled.
Right.
So there's some natural tendencies for us to compete, which I think is good. I think competition is a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
but we're also being manipulated, and it takes somebody that's had some introspection and some humility to step back and realize that we're being played in so many different ways that we don't even realize.
Right. Right.
But I was just thinking too, about traumatizing men or waking them up. I think there's so many men that have already been traumatized and are already wide awake,
Yeah.
but because of the position they're in or work, or they're afraid of losing their job or whatever, I think just by you saying a couple of things or asking some questions or making some comments,
Yeah.
you will see men light up.
I
I
know.
mean,
No,
they'll
that's
be
been
like, oh
happening.
my gosh, there's a safe woman.
I know.
You
No,
didn't
it's
get it.
funny. One of them, one of the most recent ones I connected with from a specific department. He was so excited. I mean, I told him what I wanted to do. I totally took responsibility for all the shit that's been dumped in his department, and I was like, I'm gonna fix this. And he's just like, oh my god. And like, he said it twice. He said, man, if it wouldn't earn me a trip to the HR department, I'd give you a hug. Like, I'm like, that is so fucking sad. Like, that's where a lot of these men are. And I've talked to quite a few of them, like, just briefly. And it takes just very simple, direct language and communication, and they're totally on the fucking same page. I'm like, I'll handle the crazy bitch feminists. Y'all don't worry. You just do what you need to do.
Right. And that's huge. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's probably, if there's one thing that these guys, and I'm a perfect example of that, because I was convinced until I met you and you said, okay, hold on a second. You need to put on a different pair of glasses and see things the way they actually are, and
Right.
leave the crazy bitches alone. They are
Right.
You cannot help them. And
Right.
they will try to get you to fight each other and get doing all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah.
Just stay in your freaking lane. Focus on your mission. Focus on your goals, what you're
Right.
doing, and don't worry about all that other nonsense. Let Amanda and the crazy bitch boot camp kick in, and she'll take care of business. That's
Right.
not you cannot do it. And I question if you can. I mean, I hope you can.
Oh yeah, I got it.
But I don't even care. It's like, that's your lane. I don't worry about them. I just want to focus on guys. You figure out your mission, and if you've got a mission that's worth following, there'll be a girl that comes around and wants to help you achieve that mission. And I don't know if you understood what I just said, but when a guy has a good mission that's up here and a woman comes along, that's called submission. She is under the mission. And the guy's job is to have that mission worth following. And he also needs to tell her, if she gets out of line at any point along the way, it's time for you to hit the pavement. I'm focused on this mission and this mission only. And if you want to help me achieve this, I'd love to have you on board. But if you're causing problems and you're not helping anymore, it's time for you to leave. And it's pretty simple. And if guys would just focus on that, it really simplifies things.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I've noticed that have a hard time asserting themselves or leading anything, really. Like, and I think it's just a symptom of the tyrannical matriarchy and feminism.
Yeah, but
it's like they're always like, oh, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yeah,
like,
but where would you learn?
Suggest?
Where would you learn? Where would a guy learn that today? I mean, they're being raised by these women, single moms, and they're being taught to be the nice boys. You don't hit a woman. You always treat the woman kind, blah, 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 all that nonsense.
Right.
And they don't have a man around to guide them and direct them about the way things are. I was actually raised by the actual real grandfather patriarch of MGTOW, and that was my father. And he flat out set me straight with women and how things were. And Amanda, I'll be honest with you, I thought he was so old and archaic and outdated until I went through the divorce. And then I started getting down into the space and talking to other men. And then the light bulb went off. It's like, damn, Dad was right on so many points. And he truly is. He probably is one of the original MGTOW guys. Entrepreneur and
apparently you can't be married in MGTOW, RJ.
Well, I understand that. But I mean about a man going his own way. And part of that was, having a family and business. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So I should just leave alone the ones that are so still asleep that they're in their warm poopy diaper and they have a hard time getting out of it. Because I can see some that are like that. They're just they're almost asleep, or they stay so distracted by their phone or stuff like that. I'm just like, they stay in fantasy land almost.
Right. I guess it's kind of like, if you think of your friend network, and I think of all the friends that I have, you have A friends, B friends, and your A friends you give A time to, good time and lots of time. B friends you give, B time to, and your C friends you give them a little bit, or nothing at all. So as you're trying to work with these white knights or guys that think have a chance or a hope of being saved,
you give more time to the ones that you think there's more, chance for them to not just get woken up, but also they can help and be ringleaders and, make other little disciples in your workspace where they can also have a safe space, if you will, and they
Right.
can help teach and train other men as well. And then you're having a multiplication effect. So I would just be very strategic in how you spend your time and where where you want to, because you have a limited amount of time and money. We all do.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm finding the time thing.
Yeah. And it's just, I wouldn't waste my time with guys that aren't, you don't see a lot of promise.
Yeah. That's saddening. I want to see promise in all of them.
I know,
in a couple
but
specifically, but
I know.
yeah.
And the hardest part is when you really, like, you find a person that you just connect with. You really like them. There's a personality, just like, wow, we're like in sync. And they're just like clueless. You're like, oh my gosh. Because you want to spend so much time with them because it's fun and you like them.
Yeah.
But it's like, we're not getting out of park. I mean, we're still in neutral. You need to get out.
Right.
You need to get first gear, second gear. It's time to get moving.
Yeah.
Because it's really disrespectful to you and your time. Because that's the most valuable asset we have. You can't get any more of it.
Yeah. That's true. So the divorce thing. It doesn't seem to be going down. I mean, marriages are on the decline, but it doesn't seem like divorces are stopping either.
Yeah, I know marriage is on decline. I thought divorce was going on decline just because marriages were going on decline, but I could be wrong.
Mm.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just anecdotal. I hear a lot about it.
Well, you saw the latest one. What was that? Bobbert, the Congresswoman.
No.
What's her name? She was the one a year or two ago. She's this traditional Christian conservative Congresswoman, and she flat out said, if you would just, if you're struggling in your marriage, if you would just follow after Jesus with all your heart, he will follow after you. Talking about her husband, and she's just going on and on and on about marriage and Jesus and conservative, blah blah blah. And then lo and behold, this week she announces that they're getting divorced, and it's just, I swear the traditional conservative Christian types are the worst kind of feminists because they are 100% blind and clueless to what they're doing.
Right.
And they've got this hierarchy, and they'll pretend it's God first, but it's always their career first, their children second, the pets third, their hobbies fourth, and maybe their husband.
Right.
And I think probably the best positive example of a good conservative Christian traditional woman was Phyllis Schlafly. And I think she, at heyday in the 60s and 70s, and she was probably the precursor to Good Mother, because she went all over these feminists. I mean, in Washington, D.C., she tore them a new one. But she raised her...
I was actually referred to her from a dude in the Blackosphere. He talked about her. I didn't really deep dive much into her.
Yeah, she's amazing. And so what she did is, she got married, she raised the children, took care of her husband, and when the children were all grown and out, she got a degree, and I think she got a law degree on top of that. And then she started just doing battle, and she got into the politics, and she would just rip into these liberal feminazis about their whole agenda. And she really went after the education system because she saw it as they were intentionally dumbing down the students. And she saw it in her own grandchildren, because her grandchildren couldn't read after like kindergarten or first grade. And she's like, this is ridiculous. And she looked into the curriculum, and she says, no wonder they can't read. They're not teaching them how to read. They're doing all this crazy nonsense. I don't know if it was Common Core, the precursor to Common Core, but she actually created a workbook, and it's called The First Reader. And I got that book, and I actually taught all of my children to read before they got to kindergarten using her material. So she was a warrior, and she was also very smart and strategic how she did things. And then she built things like a curriculum that, lasted and, stood the test of time. But yeah, she was amazing.
So what happened? She didn't fix it. She didn't stop it.
You never fix it. It's like, when do you stop picking the weeds out of your garden? You are never going to solve this problem ever.
Mm,
Ever, 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 ever.
I don't know. I
It's
don't know.
never, you go back through history. It's never, it'll ebb and flow. It'll get better and it'll get worse, but it never, ever, ever stops. Ever. We have to constantly be vigilant, and we have to constantly be diligent and disciplined and paying attention about what's going on, because and you see that in our own life. You want to be disciplined and do something, and I'm going to read so many pages a day, or I'm going to work out or eat right, and you go gung-ho for a while, and then life happens, or you're not in the right mood, and our own human nature, we see that in ourselves. So to think that this is going to change in society is kind of naive. It's just, we just have to be warriors and understand this is a battle that we fight every day, like gravity and picking weeds out of your garden. It never ends, ever.
Mm, mm.
And
I
there's
don't know.
always,
I think if we reach critical mass, it'll make a. And you know what? We might have reached critical mass already, and I just don't know it yet. But
we could, and like I said,
I'm
it ebbs and it flows. It'll go a
yeah.
certain way, and it's like, wow, we got all the weeds out of the garden, and then sure enough, in the spring, there's a couple little guys that pop their head up, and you're like, well, that son of a gun. And you
Well,
got
I'm
to pick
working on
those.
getting all the weeds out of just the company that I work at, and I'm
And
starting with the local level
bingo.
because
That's, to me, is the secret sauce. You get it
yeah,
as small as possible. At the individual level is ideal. The people
yeah,
you work with, your friend
yeah.
network, your neighborhood, the local, your precincts, maybe your county is about as big as you want to go, but focus locally and you're going to have the biggest impact.
Well, I have a lot of really good connections locally as far as city management, university, medical field, all that. But I'm trying to really hone in and target I think it's an international corporation too. I mean, there's this company that I work at is fucking everywhere, and it would be nice to because I'm taking Crazy Bitch Boot Camp and I'm kind of implementing it
Mm-hmm.
into this place that I'm working at, and if it can, I'm going to hit the corporate level, and I want it to spread throughout all
Absolutely.
the
Right.
places.
Yeah.
So
And that's how it starts. You start
yeah,
locally and then it goes globally.
yeah,
I love that. There's an old story in the Bible with King David. And King David, he's a man of God after God's own heart, but he also had his problems with women. Bathsheba, he had a little issue there, and get that. But one of
yeah,
the things he did every spring is he would go out and pick a fight with his neighbors. He was constantly on the move. I'm serious. He was
yeah,
never complacent. And
yeah,
when in springtime came, when the armies were ready to do battle, he would go out there and say, all right, we got to go take care of business. And that's what he would do.
yeah,
And the problem is, especially I see this in the Christian circles so much, it just drives me insane. You get these lovey-dovey, nice boys, little, doormat types, and it's sickening what's going
yeah,
on. And the complacency is just what rolls right over them. And then
yeah.
maybe they'll wake up, or when they're divorced and a shell of the man that they should have been.
Right. That's what I think breaks my heart the most. Like I see so many men that I work with that if they just gave up the white knightery, they could have find their own amount of courage and be better. Like
Yeah. But not only would they be better, it's
yeah.
all encompassing, because then the women would be better too. By them focusing and giving the women attention.
Oh God, it's kind of gross. Like the kind of women that give
What?
attention.
Wait,
I'm
remember,
like
what?
literally crazy bitch feminist.
This is going to show my age, but there was an old movie. I think it was called Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah,
And Ferris was talking about his friend Cameron, and he made some comment. He says, like, Cameron's going to get married and she's going to completely take advantage of him because he's kind of a wuss, and you can
yeah,
never respect a wuss.
yeah,
And in a woman, once they lose respect for you, they're going to come to despise you and resent you over time. And if you would just stay focused on that mission and not give them a quarter with what's going on, it's going to make your life much easier, and they're going to settle down, because then they're going to understand the role that they play in that relationship.
Right.
They cannot be the center of the orbit of your world, because their orbit is too small. No woman should be the center of a man's life. Their orbit
Right.
is too small. Their
Right.
mission needs to be the orbit, and then she needs to follow around him in helping achieve that mission, whatever that is. But he needs to get serious about that and clear about what he wants to be and do, and go do it,
Yeah.
and not worry about these women. I'm telling you, they're like pussycats in a room. If you ignore the cat, that cat will start, rubbing up on your leg, saying, "Hey man, what you got going on over there?" But as soon as you
Right.
try to chase a cat, they go, scurrying around, and they go crazy. Just
Right.
ignore the women, focus on what you're doing, and let Amanda take care of the crazy bitches. It's real simple.
I know, and I try to tell people every now and then there will be one that sticks his head up and he's like, "Here, let me try to help her." I'm like, "Oh, you can't." That's why, like, when I see them, I'm like, "Here I am. Here's the crazy bitch," and they like get in my way. I'm like, "Ooh, I don't really know how to properly handle you without hurting you, but please move. Just move." Because they hide behind these dudes, and it's so damn funny because they think they can save them. Like, these crazy bitches literally think these men can save them from me.
Yeah, that ain't happening. The other thing that's, I think, just human nature is that women have, and I don't think a lot of women, maybe they do understand this, but they have so much power over men.
Yeah.
Just in the words or the look. They've done studies about this, and as soon as you introduce a woman into a classroom, the IQ drops for the men in that classroom. It doesn't affect the women, but men get stupid when women are around.
Yeah,
and whether it's because they're afraid of being shamed or being embarrassed, I don't know. But I do know the fact is they get stupid when women are around.
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with biology. Men are so visual.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and women can trigger like very, very innate responses in men that they're designed to do around women. So it's like, and I don't know if a lot of these women know it. I feel like they do. I mean,
I
they
think
know what the fuck they're
innately,
doing.
I think innately they do. It's both good and bad, because I mean, think of, like, you're telling me about this guy that you're working with, and he's like, if I wouldn't, HR wouldn't get on my case, I'd give you a hug.
Yeah.
Women have the ability to breathe life and death into a man's life.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that know what they're doing, and they do it in the right way. It's unbelievably power, and it's unbelievably destructive when they use that power in a negative way.
Right.
And the problem with the feminist world today is that they have conditioned a whole multiple generations now that not only do they not need men, but men have been oppressing them forever. And women are the weaker sex. They don't have the power. And they're actually enslaving these women to be little Medusas and highly unattractive. And, good, high value men don't want anything to do with these women at all. At all.
That's why, like, I'm really harsh on women, especially the ones. I just sorted out a crazy bitch the other day that was making some really terrible fucking life choices, and they all claim the same thing. Oh my God, abuse, this and that. I want to help women. I'm like, really, you want to help women? Why don't you stop the fucking indoctrination and abuse of women by other women? Because being lied to by these crazy bitches is literally abuse when it causes you to destroy your life and others.
100%.
They don't get it though. They still, for some reason, see the man as the enemy. And I'm like, no, that's not the enemy right there. Those are actually your allies if you want to maintain sanity.
Yeah, but I mean, again, using biology and human nature, women are much more easily manipulated, in terms of advertising or emotional response. And so it's easy for them to get sidetracked. If somebody tells them a story, oh my gosh, did you hear about Susie, her husband, blah, 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 blah. And they'll focus on that and completely ignore, all of the other things that, what is it, 80%, 70-80% of women that are destroying families today with divorce, not due for, abuse or, infidelity or any of that, just because they're not happy or they're not satisfied. which is
No,
another good point. They're never satisfied. So
right?
stop trying to satisfy them. It's
But
just,
RJ, 93% of that 80%, all those women have college degree.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, what's that
And what do
about?
they, well, it's what do they teach them in college? I mean, it's
Yes.
all this liberal, feminist, progressive nonsense.
Yeah.
And we see this, it's like, it's mental illness.
Yeah.
It's just like looking at these people, the trans dysphoria, whatever. And, they claim that they're, a woman and they're a man. And we're supposed to encourage that or put
Right.
kitty litter in the classroom. No,
Right.
this is mental illness and it's
Mhm.
abuse when you're encouraging someone that's a psychopath that thinks they're something they're not. And we go along and pretend. That's not helpful to them. That is just perpetuating abuse and making it worse.
Yeah.
But again, if you point that out, then all of a sudden you get canceled. You're the monster, and it's like, well,
Right.
I don't waste my time with that. All those crazy women that want to pretend to be whatever. I'll let Amanda take care of that.
Right. Hey, so are you going this next October?
What's that?
Are you going to the next one?
Down in Orlando?
Yeah.
I don't know. I might. It depends on my schedule. I really like meeting all the people down there, and I thought it was a great experience.
Yeah. I think it's the 20th through the 23rd this year.
Okay, October.
Yeah, I already requested time off from work. I'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, RJ. I think things are going pretty good though. The culture's shifting a little bit. The morale is kind of increased some.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I think definitely. And we saw this. It started, I think, with COVID. When they started doing the Zoom classes from home, and parents started to see what teachers were teaching their children.
Right.
And all of a sudden, parents woke up and say, "Hold on a second, now what's going on here? They don't need to be learning all of this progressive liberal nonsense. We need to be learning, reading, writing, arithmetic. Let's focus on civics and American history, not this woke nonsense." And then that went into then masks and then forced vaccinations, and now all of a sudden you're getting drag shows in classrooms and kitty litter in bathrooms, and all of a sudden the parents, moms I should say in particular, they're saying, hell no, we're not doing this anymore. And people are starting to wake up, and that's what it takes. It just, if people aren't aware of what's going on.
But hold on. I'm not giving any of these fucking mothers a pass, because you know what? When my son went to school, I picked a charter school, and I was very much informed about any kind of fuckery that was going on. My son would tell me, and then I would go up to the school and put an end to it. So I have a hard time believing none of these parents ever heard anything before then.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's part of just the niceness or the compassion or the tolerance that we've been taught in this country. This is what I didn't understand. You had, I can't remember the girl's name, the swimmer, and that dude, tucked up his junk in a swimsuit, and he won the NCAA championship. He gets the trophy. And I remember asking women, I'm like, how come you're not outraged at this? And they're like,
support
well,
it.
Well, I know you do, because you want to get these women, out of there and put men in the role anyway.
I'm like, what are fucking women's sports anyway? If a dude joined, like I would watch it. No, it's what these fucking women deserve. All of these fucking women deserve. They have invaded every single fucking space men have. I mean, girls are allowed into Boy Scouts, but boys still aren't allowed into Girl Scouts. Why is that even a fucking thing?
And don't forget, they destroyed the Boy Scouts in the process.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same thing. My little brother, he went to the all-male military school in Charleston, South Carolina, the Citadel. He was the last all-male class that went through the Citadel. And then there was some chick, Shannon Faulkner, I think was her name. She petitioned and blah, blah, blah. And she won. And sure enough, they broke down and they let her in. And it destroyed a perfectly good institution.
Right.
If women, they can have their own thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And men need to have their own thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, they infiltrate it and destroy it. But see, they do that with everything because they don't build anything.
Right.
Men built society. Men
Yeah.
built the cars, the homes, the roads, the
Yeah.
cities. It was
Yeah.
men, the engineers that build stuff. You know, if a woman
Yep.
she wants to decorate it, great, no problem. But
Right.
then they get into a position of power and they're like, well, you know, I think we need to do this, this, and this. And it's like they
Right.
take this complex, you know, military helicopter and they come at it with a sledgehammer. It's like, no, 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 no. Hold on. You don't know what the hell you're doing. And they
Right.
destroy everything they touch.
Yep. I
And
agree.
you see that throughout society.
But now our society allows it. They just open the door for women. That's what makes it easy for me to go in and redecorate, if you like.
But Amanda, it's
Yeah.
more than allowing it.
Yeah.
They celebrate it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's way more than just allowing. You know, we
Yeah.
just saw this last week. You know, the whole. I'm not going to get political at all on you, but we just saw last week. Durham came out with his report, the Russia collusion thing with Trump, and one thing he said is that we found out all of these people that were involved with Russia collusion, but there's two people that were not involved with Russia collusion. One was Trump, and the other one was Russia. And
Right.
so it's but the people that are supporting that, you're never
Mhm.
going to get an apology from them because their whole agenda is about destroying the country and destroying any sense of order and normalcy about what works.
Yeah.
So in their world, they succeeded in what they wanted to accomplish.
Well,
And
and
that's the world we live in.
Hillary was right there doing the things.
Oh,
She
oh
was
yeah.
very, very instrumental in all of that.
Yeah, but you know, I think they're all puppets. You know, we need to go all the way to the top, look at the food chain, you know, start at the money, start at the top. But
Yes, I look at who extracts the money from the people that have the money, and that is
yeah,
always feminists.
yeah.
Always.
And just from a common sense standpoint, you know,
Yeah.
if you look at where wisdom comes from, wisdom doesn't come out of chaos. Wisdom comes out of order. So you have to go from chaos to order, and then order into wisdom and creativity. What the world is teaching is that, well, we need to have all this chaos, and then we can
Right.
figure out a new way of doing something. It's like that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for fathers to be around with their children, because they're typically the ones that instill the discipline, the structure, the order in that
Yep.
child's life. And if you're not learning discipline from your father,
Right.
you're not going to learn it at school, and you're probably
Right.
going to learn it from the police department, and they're just going to throw your little fanny in jail. And
Right.
so it's just this perpetuates this problem. But
Yeah.
again, this all stems from the money, because the only reason it started in the black community, the only reason the black community got destroyed, you know, living in Michigan, I had an Uber guy, and he was an older gentleman, black man, and he was telling me in Detroit in the 50s, before they had all of the riots and everything that went on, he said the black community, they were segregated, but the black community was like a postcard. Every lawn was mowed, the shrubs were cut, and there was a man and a woman raising their family. Elderly couples could walk down the street without any concern at all about being attacked or shot or anything. At all. Why did that change? Because money from Uncle Sam was introduced, and they targeted the black family, and they went to these women and said, I tell you what, if you kick that black man out of the house, we'll pay you so you don't have to put up with that anymore. And she's like, all right. And so she did. She pimped, you know, took the pimp money, hoed herself out to Uncle Sam, kicked the
Right.
black man to the street, boom. And now we're seeing the same exact thing all throughout society.
Wow. I feel like it's been the same thing all throughout society for a long time. Minus the Asian community, but definitely the white communities. There are so many people, more white people than black people, government dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that started when women started entering our fucking government. It's like it's almost like you can make a biological argument why women have no fucking business being in government, because no matter where they are, they're going to start treating people like children, like they have to care for them.
But think about why men were originally should have the right to vote and not women. It is a very important.
Because they go to war.
Exactly. And so if you're going to put your life on the line,
Yeah.
you should have a say and who
Yes.
is going to be sending you to the front lines. That's
Exactly.
why the men should be voting.
Yes.
Now, if you want to put the women on the front lines, and have at it. And if you sign up and you want to be on the front lines and take a bullet, then maybe those people should be allowed to vote. I mean, I'm just hairballing ideas, but
Yeah. So
you're
so
exactly
no
right.
so no
When they,
logistics, no kitchen cooks just because they're in the military. I can get
what's
behind
that?
that. No female cooks, military cooks. Just the front line
Well,
fighters.
like I said
Because
earlier,
I
when
don't I don't
men get stupid when women are around.
yeah, I don't want any women voting, just like I don't want any women in the military.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, but
things do get
when what was it, the 1800s, the women started getting involved with the suffrage movement, and
oh yeah.
it's
Those crazy lesbians were
gone downhill since.
yes, seriously. Seriously. No, it's been a slow boil of our society for sure.
So
See,
what else is going on?
we have another chick here. The women with uterus and ovaries are subject to hysteria. Yeah, all women are
Well, it's again,
biological women.
it's biological. They're much more emotional. They're more neurotic.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a slam against women per se. It's just we're built differently.
Well, we're designed to protect children. So you put women in positions of power and they start treating their subordinates, quote unquote, like they're fucking children.
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable. and and you're not supposed to. That's like a serious cross of boundaries, like to treat adults like children.
Yeah. And then I guess this would be kind of going hand in hand with the white knightery, is that especially, and I'm sure you're seeing it in corporate America now, but especially when you get into the boardrooms and in management, upper management, it's the feminization of these men. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times they're worse. They're worse than the women in these
Yeah.
corporations. I mean, in terms of how they fight, negotiate, and shame and
Yeah.
passive aggressive. I'm like, are you a freaking dude or a chick? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
I've seen quite a few female tactics being used, and I'm like, it's so gross to me for some reason. I'm like, hmm. Maybe because I'm super direct and I handle things mostly like dudes probably,
Hmm.
but I'm just like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. And so I just think it's a good clarification. When we're talking feminism, that's not just a female thing.
Yeah.
It's the feminized men, it's the white knights, it's all of that stuff that's thrown in there together.
Yeah.
And it's an ideology, really. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah. And
it's
it
just a
induces mental illness.
yeah, because it's not true. That's the problem.
Right. Right. When you make people choke down lies and live lies, they're gonna go crazy. It's gonna happen. Yeah. Kamala Harris syndrome. I talk to people like they're in kindergarten. Uh-oh. RJ paused. Well, I'm going to take this time to say hi to everybody in the chat. Hello, Bullets, Johnny Midnight, Mr. Kush, Uncle Guns, good to see you. Outlaw, good to see you. Sunflower, good to see you. I still have to get back to you. Being since you're a new contact, you are very low on my list of priority to take time to conversate with. So I have the next tonight and 2 other nights off. So I will be getting back to you and setting up a chat before I go back to work. I promise. JR, always good to see you. Primo, Braxton, Billy. And I think we lost RJ. Timothy, good to see you. Who else? Oh, Jason was here. Bandit, good to see you. Hello. You're back. Very good
Back.
to see you, Bandit. We've missed you, all of us. Gone with John, good to see you. Did I miss anybody? Nope. It's everybody. So, yeah. Well, was there anything you wanted? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, my phone overheated. We were having such a heated discussion.
That is funny.
Sitting in the sun, my phone overheated.
Yeah. Well, was there anything else? I'm trying to think. I feel like I have a better idea on how to handle these white knights. I just have to ignore them for now and let the actual patriarchs of the institution sort them out. They don't like each other, by the way.
Yeah.
And there might be good reason.
Yeah, and that competition thing is real. I mean, in the corporate world too. It's all about getting that advancement, and that promotion.
Mm. Well, I'm going after the corporate level. I already have my wheat and chaff separated, so my targets.
Yeah, and there's just again going back to the vaccine thing. I mean, when they were pushing for the mandate in the corporations, and they said, whatever date it was, it's going to be a law. You have to do this. You have to do it. And so a lot of corporations just automatically, got in line and started force vaccinating and mandating their employees to get the jab, or they're going to lose their job.
Right.
And we all know what happened because we saw the same exact thing happen when I think Obama was a president, and he was trying to change all of the employees from exempt to non-exempt or non-exempt to exempt, raise the tax level or whatever.
Right.
And all the corporations just jumped right in line. And at the 11th hour, they never passed the law, but the corporations already put it into their corporate policy. And the same exact thing happened with the vaccines. All these corporations did it, and it never, ever, became law.
Right.
So the real issue is, government will, put out some policy ideas and dictate some things, but it's really it's the corporations that are actually carrying the water for the government, and it's the perfect definition of fascism. How all of this is working.
And I know firsthand that it's the women in these corporations who do it.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because they're afraid. They're doing it out of a fear response. Going back to what you said, women are more easily emotionally manipulated, right?
Mm-hmm. And they want to comply.
Yeah. Well, they need to comply to my demands.
What happens if they don't?
Then it's off with their head, obviously.
There we go. There's got to be consequences.
I mean, the two major motivators are fear and hunger that drive people to change their behavior. So I'm going for both.
I always thought it was pleasure and pain, but I'll go along with you. Make it much easier for them to listen to you.
Yeah. Well,
but I don't know. I'm sure when we hang up, I'll be driving. I'm off to San Francisco, and I'm sure I'll have a whole bunch of other things that come to my mind. Like, oh, we should have talked about this. But it's always good catching up with you. It's been a while.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time, making the time during your busy schedule. You're busy.
Absolutely. Anything I can do to help, let me know.
All right. Thank you, RJ.
You're welcome, Amanda. See you, good mother. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That's helpful. I have some things to think about. I might stream again later tonight because I'm off. So I'll see y'all later. Oh, by the way, I have some to be continued for this crazy bitch nonsense, but I have some Ash Thought and her emotional support tomato fucking business to take care of. This crazy bitch thought she would go and run to Kush, probably because he's seems to be the nicest one of the bunch. But you know, it's funny. She had to phone in her little friend because Ashley couldn't handle just a one-on-one conversation with me in a comment section. And then this crazy bitch attempted to try to manipulate me. So it's funny. It's really funny. These cunts think that they're so fucking smart. But I will come back to this one. Yes, I will smile and wave bullets. See y'all later.